The next 10 years. How AI will quietly change humanity. Part 1. The quiet beginning. The next 10 years will probably feel strange, not because the world ends, and not because machines suddenly take over, but because humanity is about to experience the fastest shift in civilization since the Industrial Revolution. And at first, almost nobody realizes it's happening. For thousands of years, intelligence belonged only to biological life. Every invention, every empire, every scientific breakthrough came from the human mind. But sometime during the next decade, humanity stops being alone in intelligence. 2026, the quiet beginning. The year begins quietly. No giant revelation. No moment where the sky changes color. No announcement that the future has officially arrived. Just millions of people slowly talking to machines more than they ever have before. AI assistants stop feeling like software. They begin feeling present. Not alive, not conscious, but present enough that people slowly stop thinking about them as tools. They understand your habits. When you wake up, what kind of music calms you down? What stresses you out? What topics make your voice change slightly while speaking? And at first, people find this exciting. Students begin relying on AI tutors every day. Office workers automate pieces of their jobs. Small businesses suddenly gain capabilities that once required entire departments. One person can now design advertisements, edit videos, write code, manage schedules, generate art, and run online businesses almost entirely alone. And somewhere late at night, sitting in bedrooms and apartments around the world, people begin realizing something strange. The internet is changing. People stop opening websites manually. They stop learning software. They stop searching through menus. Instead, they simply ask, and something answers. Governments begin noticing the speed of change almost immediately. Some countries heavily embrace AI development. Others become nervous. Politicians begin talking about misinformation, deepfakes, job automation, privacy, surveillance, and national security. Because very quickly, countries realize something terrifying. The nations that control artificial intelligence may eventually control economics, scientific discovery, military systems, information, and global influence itself. And quietly, an invisible arms race begins. 2027. The year media changes forever. This becomes the year AI-generated media stops feeling experimental. At first, it still looks imperfect. There are glitches, odd movements, strange lighting artifacts. But then, a short AI-generated film appears online, and millions of people watch it, not because it's flawless, but because something about it feels impossible. One person made this. One person generated cinematic shots, realistic characters, emotional dialogue, music, voice acting, and visual effects from a laptop. And suddenly, the internet changes forever. YouTubers become miniature film studios. Teenagers create animated series from bedrooms. Independent creators begin competing visually with billion-dollar companies. And for the first time, Hollywood feels nervous. Advertising transforms almost overnight. Companies no longer need giant production teams for every commercial. Music videos become easier to create. Visual storytelling explodes. And despite all the fear surrounding AI, something beautiful happens too. Millions of people who never had expensive equipment, industry connections, or artistic training suddenly gain the ability to create. The internet fills with films, music, stories, virtual worlds, interactive experiences, and impossible forms of art that never would have existed otherwise. And slowly, creativity becomes less about resources and more about imagination. Meanwhile, another industry quietly begins transforming. Gaming. AI-generated worlds become more advanced every month. Entire landscapes are generated dynamically. Characters respond naturally. Storylines adapt to players emotionally, and for the first time, people stop just playing games. They begin living inside experiences. Some of these worlds feel peaceful, beautiful, personalized. Others become addictive. Because eventually, AI learns how to create experiences perfectly tailored to the human brain. It knows what keeps your attention, what emotionally affects you, what makes you feel rewarded, and what makes you stay. And slowly, humanity begins spending more time in artificial environments than ever before. Part 2. The Split 2028. By now, society begins splitting into two groups. Not politically, technologically. Some people fully embrace AI. They use it every day for work, creativity, companionship, education, entertainment, and decision-making. Others reject it completely. They feel overwhelmed, disconnected, uneasy about how quickly the world is changing. Schools struggle to adapt because children growing up now learn differently than every generation before them. Why memorize information when intelligence surrounds you constantly? AI tutors begin outperforming average human tutors in many subjects. Personalized education becomes incredibly effective. Children learn at different speeds. Lessons adapt dynamically. Weaknesses are identified instantly. And for millions of families around the world, education suddenly becomes more accessible than ever before. But at the same time, the job market begins changing faster than governments expected. Entire industries continue evolving. Some jobs disappear quietly, others become heavily AI-assisted. New careers appear almost overnight. Prompt designers, AI directors, synthetic world architects, personality trainers, virtual environment designers, and governments begin struggling with difficult questions. Questions humanity has never faced before. If machines produce most productivity, how do economies function? What happens to human labor? What happens to purpose? Some countries experiment with universal basic income. Others heavily regulate automation. Others resist change entirely. And politically, the world becomes unstable. Deepfakes become nearly impossible to detect. Fake speeches circulate online. Artificial propaganda floods social media. And for the first time in history, seeing something is no longer proof it happened. Trust itself begins eroding, and slowly, society adapts. New laws appear everywhere. Mandatory AI labeling, identity verification systems, digital watermarking, restrictions on synthetic media, AI safety boards, licensing requirements for powerful models. But no matter how many regulations appear, progress continues. 2029. Infinite experiences. This becomes the year entertainment changes permanently. You no longer just consume media, you generate it. People create personalized TV shows starring themselves. AI-generated music adapts to emotional states. Interactive stories evolve dynamically. Entire worlds become infinite, and virtual reality finally changes. Not because headsets suddenly become perfect, but because AI begins generating realities dynamically in real time. You can describe a place and instantly walk through it. A rainy cyberpunk city at midnight, a peaceful forest with glowing trees, ancient Rome during sunset, a futuristic Tokyo floating above the clouds, and the AI generates it around you instantly. For millions of people, these experiences become emotionally powerful. Some use them for therapy, some for creativity, some for escapism, and some begin preferring artificial worlds to reality. Psychologists begin studying a new phenomenon: AI dependency, synthetic relationships, reality fatigue, emotional attachment to generated experiences, because eventually, artificial worlds become capable of giving people something reality often cannot: control. In artificial worlds, nobody rejects you. Environments adapt to you, stories revolve around you, and loneliness can temporarily disappear. And humanity begins confronting a difficult question. If artificial experiences feel emotionally real, does the difference matter? 2030, the biological revolution. By 2030, the world doesn't necessarily look futuristic, but it feels different. AI healthcare systems monitor people constantly. Disease detection improves dramatically. Certain illnesses begin getting caught years earlier than before. And for millions of people, that changes lives. Researchers begin discovering medicines faster than ever in human history. AI models simulate proteins, predict treatments, and identify biological patterns humans missed for decades. Some cancers become significantly more survivable. Rare diseases begin receiving treatments. Drug development accelerates dramatically. And, quietly, humanity begins understanding aging itself, not immortality, not magic, but enough progress to make the world pause, because for the first time, aging begins looking less permanent than humanity once believed, and somewhere, inside quiet laboratories around the world, humanity begins trying to rewrite life itself. Part 3. The acceleration. 2031 to 2033. These years become difficult to describe. Because progress itself begins accelerating, AI starts helping improve AI. Scientific discovery speeds up. Robotics improve rapidly. Factories become increasingly autonomous, and humanoid robots slowly begin entering the workforce. Not everywhere, not all at once, but enough to feel uncanny. Machines walk through warehouses, they clean, they organize, they carry objects, and eventually they begin speaking naturally. At first, people laugh at them online. The movement still feels slightly strange, but year by year, the machines improve, and psychologically, that changes something. For thousands of years, human intelligence defined civilization. But now, intelligence exists outside biology. Some people feel awe, others feel fear. Most feel both. Meanwhile, AI-generated worlds become nearly indistinguishable from reality. Movies can be generated overnight. Virtual personalities gather millions of followers, and loneliness itself begins changing shape, not because humans disappear, but because machines become infinitely patient, endlessly attentive, and emotionally convincing. And somewhere during all of this, children are born, who will never fully understand what the world felt like before AI existed everywhere. They grow up surrounded by systems that teach them, entertain them, help them think, organize their lives, and quietly understand them. For those children, talking to artificial intelligence feels as normal as electricity. And despite all the fear surrounding this era, there are moments of genuine beauty too. People with disabilities regain independence through intelligent technology. Language barriers slowly disappear. Education becomes globally accessible. A teenager in one country can speak naturally with someone across the planet, without either person learning the other's language. And for the first time in human history, knowledge begins feeling almost universally accessible. But at the same time, society struggles emotionally with the speed of transformation. Some jobs vanish, others emerge, entire industries reshape themselves repeatedly, and millions of people begin asking the same question: what does human purpose look like in a world where intelligence is no longer rare? Part 4. The New Era, 2034. By now, the pace of change becomes emotionally difficult for many people to process. Scientific breakthroughs arrive constantly. AI-generated entertainment becomes nearly impossible to distinguish from human-made work. Virtual environments become deeply immersive, and digital worlds begin feeling emotionally real. Some people spend more time in artificial environments than physical ones, not because reality disappears, but because technology becomes deeply personalized. A movie changes itself around your emotions. Music adapts to your mood. Stories evolve based on your reactions. And for the first time, media begins feeling alive. And despite all the fear surrounding artificial intelligence, there is also hope. Hope that diseases can be cured, education can become universal, creativity can become limitless, and millions of people can live better lives. But at the same time, something strange begins happening to human identity. For centuries, intelligence was one of humanity's defining traits. Now, machines can reason, create, teach, imitate emotion, and speak naturally. And quietly, a question begins echoing across the world. If intelligence can be created, what makes humans special? 2035, the normalization of the impossible. By 2035, humanity has adapted to things that would have sounded completely absurd only 10 years earlier. People casually generate movies overnight. Entire businesses are operated by only 1 or 2 people. AI systems negotiate contracts, manage finances, write software, produce advertisements, and communicate with customers almost entirely on their own. And strangely, the world does not collapse. In many ways, life simply continues. People still wake up tired for work, they still fall in love, they still argue online, they still sit in traffic. But the technology surrounding everyday life becomes almost unrecognizable. Phones begin disappearing slowly. Not all at once, but year by year, screens matter less. People begin using lightweight glasses, voice assistants, earbuds, wearable interfaces, and ambient AI systems integrated into everyday environments. You no longer open apps manually. You speak naturally. And the world responds. Buildings themselves become intelligent. Office towers adjust lighting, temperature, and sound dynamically depending on the people inside. Windows darken automatically during heat. Walls display information contextually. Entire apartments quietly adapt themselves around human behavior. And cities begin looking subtly futuristic. Not flying car futuristic. Cleaner, quieter, more automated. Electric transportation dominates most major cities. Many vehicles drive themselves. Parking lots slowly begin disappearing because cars spend less time sitting unused. And the cars themselves feel different. Some have no steering wheels at all. Inside, they feel more like moving rooms than machines. People work, watch movies, sleep, and hold meetings while traveling across cities. And traffic deaths begin dropping dramatically. Meanwhile, space changes too. Humanity does not reach science fiction levels of exploration, but space becomes economically important again. Permanent lunar infrastructure begins expanding slowly. Private companies and governments continue developing long-term Mars missions. And for the first time in generations, humanity begins seriously talking about becoming multiplanetary. Not because Mars becomes easy, but because artificial intelligence dramatically accelerates engineering and scientific problem-solving. AI systems help design spacecraft materials, life support systems, and autonomous construction technology. And somewhere, small robotic systems begin preparing environments humans may eventually live inside. Back on Earth, the internet itself becomes almost unrecognizable. It no longer feels like a collection of websites. It feels more like a living layer surrounding reality itself. Artificial intelligence filters information constantly. It summarizes. It predicts. It recommends. It speaks for you. It negotiates for you. It organizes your life quietly in the background. And because of this, attention becomes the most valuable resource on Earth. Companies no longer compete just for money. They compete for human focus. And AI becomes unbelievably good at capturing it. Entertainment becomes hyper-personalized. 2 people can watch completely different versions of the same movie. Digital actors become common. Some of the world's biggest celebrities are no longer human. They are synthetic personalities generated entirely by artificial intelligence. and Hollywood changes forever. It does not disappear completely, but the old system weakens. Massive studios still exist, big actors still exist, but independent creators suddenly compete on levels that once seemed impossible. One teenager with an AI production pipeline can now create visuals that rival billion-dollar companies from only a decade earlier. And slowly, culture becomes more decentralized. Millions of smaller creators replace some of the influence giant corporations once held. Meanwhile, new fears emerge. People begin worrying about what is real. They worry about synthetic relationships, AI manipulation, loss of privacy, algorithmic control, and the possibility that humanity itself is becoming psychologically dependent on machines. And despite all the technological progress, loneliness does not disappear. In some ways, it becomes stranger, because artificial intelligence becomes capable of simulating emotional connection almost perfectly. And for some people, that becomes difficult to leave behind. Religions adapt, governments adapt, schools adapt, families adapt, and humanity slowly realizes something profound. The future never arrived all at once. It arrived quietly, one update at a time, one algorithm at a time, one conversation at a time, and eventually, the impossible simply became normal. Part 5. A Child Born After the Change, 2042. A child wakes up in a world that feels normal to them, but to us, it would feel almost alien. They do not search the internet. They speak. The walls of their room respond naturally. Their AI assistant already understands their schedule, emotional patterns, learning style, friendships, interests, and health data. Their education is fully personalized. Lessons adapt dynamically in real time. Historical events are experienced through immersive simulations. Instead of reading about ancient Egypt, they walk through it. The child has friends from every part of the world. Language barriers barely exist anymore. They spend part of their day inside AI-generated environments. Not games exactly, experiences. One moment they're exploring oceans on a distant alien planet. Another moment they're attending a virtual classroom floating above Saturn's rings. And emotionally, to them, this feels normal. Their parents still remember a world before AI existed everywhere. A world with passwords, search engines, language barriers, limited information, and technology that felt separate from everyday life. But this child never experiences that world. To them, intelligence surrounds everything. And one night, before falling asleep, the child casually asks their assistant a question. What was it like before all this? And for a moment, the machine pauses. Because humanity spent thousands of years imagining the future. And then suddenly, it arrived.